up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the battle, harder I fight. I've come too far to quit. Step back, I'm going in. I'm cranking up on the throttle. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. Like iron from the fire, getting stronger. This is how legends are made. Above it all, untouchable, a new animal. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. I got the lightning inside me. Oh, just you watch. This is how legends are made. I'm like a titan that's rising. Oh, just you watch. This is how legends are made.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to episode number 3 of the amazing, the one and only, the best place on the Twitchverse, the Pre-Patch Podcast. What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing? So happy to be here and so happy to have another episode go live. So we are, of course, holding it down with myself. We've got Agent Scruffy. What's up, buddy?
Yo, what's going on, guys?
And our fearless leader, Mr. Enigma. How are you doing, my dude?
What's good, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Hopefully everybody's enjoying yourselves. Come on in, take a seat, relax, and enjoy these auditory tunes of our voices coming in through your ears.
Yeah, man. It's lyrical ASMR, man. It's gonna be amazing. So
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
We'll get right up in there, the
Yeah.
mic for you guys,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
look, I'll lick your ear hole. In any case, you guys
Get
may
me
be
started.
noticing that we are down one person. Unfortunately, Billy the Squid had to take care of some family stuff. And our thoughts go out to him to make sure that everything is okay. So, guys, send some good vibes out into the world, out in the universe for him.
Good vibes.
To make sure that that's all happening okay. So he will be with us in spirit, and I'm sure when he can, he will jump in chat if possible. But in any case, it's not going to stop us from throwing down one of the most epic episodes of any podcast known to man. I mean, at this point, Joe Rogan should be afraid because Pre-Patch is coming for you, baby.
We're
So
coming.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
So, of course, you can catch all of us live on our channels. Well, you can catch Enigma in our channels, but you can catch myself and Scruffy as well as Bill live on all of our channels on Twitch. Mine's twitch.tv/S1N3N. Obviously, you're here, as well as you've got Scruffy, and all of our links are in our names here. You've got Agent Scruffy and then Billy_the_squid. But in any case, guys, it's gonna be an awesome episode, man. I think there's a lot to talk about. I've got some stuff on my plate that I know I want to talk about. And Enigma and Scruffy both have got some new stuff to talk about. So it's gonna be a good show. So guys, hang on tight and buckle up because we're gonna jump right into it, man. So Enigma, I know that last week we were gonna talk. We wanted to talk about New World, and it kind of got away from us. And this week, we dedicated and said we are gonna talk about New World because it is an upcoming MMO that's out there.
So it was more of just a passing mention, but yeah, dedicated.
This is all about New World.
No, it's not going to be all about New World, but in any case, it definitely is going to be about. We're going to talk about New World.
We're gonna have some conversation about it for sure.
Well, I think I think honestly, to segue into it, it really is pertinent because there's such a drought right now. Like when you're talking,
that's
MMOs.
originally kind of the reason why I was looking at it. Is because we've been talking about it, you and me. How there's just such a drought of MMOs. It feels like recently, like there's nothing coming out in the foreseeable future other than maybe, like Fantasy Star Online 2, which is just a re-release of a game that released back in 2012. I found out. I thought they were making an entirely new.
No,
MMO.
yeah, this is
it's literally just a re-release from 2012.
Absolutely.
Which kind of shot me in the gut when I found out about that. My spirits went from, oh hell yeah, another new MMO to, oh shit, it's just a fucking remake.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's been out in overseas in Japan for a while now, like if I'm not mistaken. So
and then we got that, and then I was talking to you about the fact that really, like, on the foreseeable future and on the horizon, there's nothing, dude. Like there is literally nothing, and that's sad. That's extremely sad considering the fact that I consider myself, and I know you kind of do too, MMO players. Like that's our favorite genre, kind of.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's to the point where you almost, as someone like that, like you have these other games that you're filling this void in with. Like for me, like Tarkov has felt that void. And just because it's not MMO, but there's aspects of it that are like, okay, this is my character. My inventory is kind of MMO based. But you also like now I'm playing Woken, which we're going to talk about in the show, which I'm super excited for to talk about Woken, but there's not, man, like like you don't feel complete without having that MMO to go back to.
Yeah, especially again, like I said, considering the fact that I am an MMO player at heart. That's been my genre since pretty much World of Warcraft, right? So like since I was like 12, 13, I've been playing MMOs left and right. I do dabble in like first person shooters. I do dabble in Monster Hunter games. Obviously, that's kind of my go-to right there right now is Monster Hunter. I'm still playing that. They just released a new content update, so
I mean,
we're getting stuff for it.
From like MMO,
Yeah,
like,
but that's exactly.
But it's
that's
not an MMO.
It's not an MMO,
Right.
but it does have like multiplayer aspects to it, co-op multiplayer aspects to it. So it kind of scratches that itch, just like Tarkov does with you.
Right.
But it's not
still
the same,
not. Yeah. It's not. You still don't get that feeling of like progression and even though you're getting guns and things like that, like in Tarkov or in Monster Hunter, you're moving to the next boss, or next monster or whatever else. Like it's still, there's something. One, it's the community. Right, like the community engagement, the living world that you're in, to feel like this is a world that I am stepping into, and like going into it, like you're set, like these are objectives I have. It's just it is almost hard to explain like what makes MMOs so like powerful and like I don't know, but either way,
no doubt, like a good community, like having a good raid with like a bunch of people going in.
It's like
feeling.
It's like World of Warcraft, right? Like I've been like I said, I told you guys I started playing World of Warcraft at 12, 13 when it released, right? That's literally been a part of my life since my early childhood, right? Like my late childhood into teenage years, right?
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Am I the oldest person? Am I the oldest person on the show?
I'm only 30, dude.
Think I might be.
I'm the oldest person on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know that already?
No, I didn't. I thought you were older than me. Not by a lot, but
old Papa Sin over there.
Holy shit. Okay.
But yeah,
right, let me go get my walker.
That's the biggest thing. Is it's just one of those things, like the MMO genre in itself is one of those things where you can commit yourself to it for a long time. All these other games, I play them for like a month. Like Monster Hunter World, I've been playing for a long time. I got like 200, 300 some odd hours into that game. I'm not even considered a pro, but that to me is pretty good. But like World of Warcraft, I put countless, probably a couple thousand hours into that game.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing with MMOs is that you can do that because they continuously have content that you can do.
Well, I mean, look at WoW. Even though all of us on the show kind of agree that WoW is just not in a good spot,
Blizzard, in general,
but they just had the race to world first. N'Zoth raid came out, like that feeling of community, of involvement, of coming together. You don't get that with other styles of games.
You don't really, yeah.
You know,
you get like a fraction of it in some cases, but yeah, you don't get the classic MMO feel that you do
and even
from those types of games. You know,
even something like, you know, you can have like a Diablo style, you know, which I think a lot of people have kind of gravitated to now that are MMO fans. They've gravitated into this Diablo style kind of action RPG. But even still, like, there's something about, you know, if we go to WoW, like, I think we all can talk about a moment, and maybe not Scruffy because he didn't really play WoW, but like, you know, I know that like going into like Legion, right? Or going into Burning Crusades, dude, like going into Burning Crusades, you remember the world events that happened that was affecting, not even though you were on different servers, it was still affecting the entire world of Warcraft, right? And you are experiencing something together as an entire community that, even though, you know, you have someone across the world, different servers, different that you may never communicate with, you know that they're experiencing something that you're experiencing. So it's just, it's something about it. So New World, right? So you've I don't know. Yeah, I'll let you kind of take it.
They finally lifted the NDA on me so I can talk about the original one, but it kind of has nothing to do with the current version of New World because they've changed it so drastically. Yeah. So when I got invited into the alpha back late last year, I believe was what it was, like sometime mid last year to late last year. I literally played it once and hated it. Fucking hated it because it was not an MMO. And that's one thing that I see a lot of in the genre these days is they label their games as MMOs to get these people like me or people like you that are like, we're lusting for a new MMO, right? And so they're like, well, we'll just slap an MMO tag on it.
Dude, League is considered an MMO. Like,
yeah, we'll get the thirsty MMO players on here, and at least we'll get them in, and they'll purchase the base game, and then, gotcha, not an MMO, it's a survival game or something like that, and that's exactly that's exactly what New World was, right? I logged into it thinking I'm going to create my character, I'm going to start at level 1. I log in, and I'm like, this is just fucking Rust. Yeah. I literally log on and I'm in the middle of a beach with like 6 other random dudes around me that are like smacking people with spears, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. Like this is not an MMO. This is just a survival game.
Well, so the premise of that was what? That you were basically coming into a new world and had to develop it, right? Like that was the whole
something like that. They basically what they were trying to get at was the newest stuff that they've got updated. It's still somewhat of a survival game, but it's no longer going to be as PvP focused, which is in some cases a bad thing, because I know there's a lot of people that like PvP. I enjoy PvP when it's balanced and it's not something that affects you on a time scale basis, because that's one thing that annoys me about it is like when you go in and it's a full loot drop. I know you like Tarkov, but I hate that kind of game, dude. When it's like you go in there, you spend an hour trying to find gear, go in the next, into your next move, and then you drop it in less than 2 seconds. You just lost an hour.
Right. It can definitely be aggravating, but like it can be rewarding to some people. But like it's just
it can be very rewarding and it can be very enjoyable for some people. But I've played so many of those games that it's just annoying to me these days. And that's what New World was. But they've kind of changed it to where it's more of a traditional style MMO where you still have the full loot, you still have the PvP, but it's optional, which some people are not going to enjoy because they would rather the special kind of people that are like, I need to inflict pain on other people.
Right, like it's like a thing you toggle now, right?
Yeah, it's like separate servers basically. Yeah. It's separate servers, toggles. If you don't want to participate in it, you don't have to. It's also got stuff where it's like they've added in like a karma system, so if you have like a higher a bad karma, you drop more on death, I guess is what they were saying. Like I guess if like you've been killing a lot of people, you have a low karma. I mean, instead of dropping like one piece of loot, you drop like 6,
So for me, when I looked at some of like the newer stuff that was coming in there, it still had, so I had some worries, and I have some questions that I guess I want kind of answered, right? And whether you can answer them or not, or I don't know, but okay. So with an MMO, there's a couple of key things for me that you have to hit, right? And you have to check off your list to do well.
Yeah.
One is first and foremost is some sort of class system. This is why I really have an issue with Guild Wars. This is why I have an issue with ESO in a way, because in Guild Wars it was, you don't have the traditional trinity, and I'm not saying that you have to have like a tank, a healer, a DPS, but
more weapons based.
Right, but the thing is, like, when you go into a dungeon and I don't know the role that I am playing, then I at that point become a situation where it's like I don't know what to do. You know, so does New World have that? Is there a class-based system?
From what I've seen, no, there is no class-based system. It's all basically you build your character off of whatever you want. You start the game and then you move into like using stats and equipment and gear to make yourself into whatever you want. There is abilities. Yeah, there is abilities as far as I could tell. It looked like there was, I don't think they're given to you through weapons. I'm not entirely sure about that. They haven't really talked too much about that.
Maybe it's like a training system.
Yeah, it's either a training system or it's something ingrained into, like, if you later on down the road, like once you put a certain amount of stats into your character, you unlock certain abilities, right? So if you put a bunch of stats into mana, you unlock more spells. If you put stats into health, you unlock, warrior type abilities and agility, something like that. They haven't really talked too much about that, but no, it is not a class system. It's all based off of like your point allocation and what you're wearing.
But I mean, it still can niche you into a class. Like, I mean, is that still saying like if I put points into health, I'm your tank? You know,
yeah. That's what I was about to say. Is I think that you still have like the Trinity. I think there's still a tank. There's still a DPS. There's still a healer.
Are there dungeons like?
As far as I've seen, they're trying to make more dungeons. They've put in more of an emphasis on PvE content, and they haven't really
not going to add dungeons right away.
Yeah, from what I've heard, they're putting more of an emphasis on PvE content early on. There won't be dungeons. They're going to be adding those on as they go. But it's more like grinding world bosses and like world mobs and stuff like that. So it's still. In my eyes, it's not an MMO. Honestly, it's not an MMO. It's a survival game. It's like Ark. It's like Rust.
That sucks.
I don't know if on release if they're gonna have enough content like without dungeons.
I'm not thinking they will.
People who will grind that game.
Well, this is not. It's not released, right? This is early access. Is coming.
No, yeah, this is still early access. Right. I don't even think it's in. I don't even think it's in alpha. Well, it is in alpha, but I don't even think they've released it into beta yet. So, this is obviously all still subject to change.
Right.
But from what they've said, they saw a very bad downward spiral into becoming a game like Rust, where Rust is very toxic. It's very based off of PvP. Yeah. And so they wanted to remove that article, that type of gameplay.
You don't need more re-kids.
And make it into more of a toggle situation.
Well, and the issue that you have with that is like, even for instance, like what was the game we were playing? Hurt World, right? Like, we enjoyed the shit out of Hurt World. We were playing it for a while, but then you get to a point where the game has progression beyond what Rust, in my mind, did. It reminded me of early days of Rust, but the problem was that as soon as you got raided and your shit was gone, it was just kind of like, fuck me, man. Yeah. Like, I don't want to fucking redo all of this again.
That's what I was talking about, is like the time investment that you have in like games like Rust or games like Ark or games like Tarkov. That's one thing. You need to have another way to basically reward your PvP players, right? Yeah. It needs to not be time gains. It needs to be something comparable to that, like gold. I don't know what they need to do, but it definitely, when you kill somebody and you completely drop all your gear and then they go and raid your base, that's very disheartening to some people.
Did you ever play Warhammer Online?
Vaguely, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, back in the day.
So Warhammer Online had a really good PvP system that I thought was smart for open world PvP, and the way that it functioned was basically that you PvP to control sections of the land to be able to open quest lines. And to be able to do stuff, and you would fight world bosses to be able to own that section. And once you fought the world boss, or you PvP'd and you owned it, then this whole entire quest line opened up. But it only was open for the amount of time that you owned that thing. And so it was an ongoing battle, right? So what it did was that it basically it basically bolstered the fact that like PvP had a meaning in open world, right? It had its battlegrounds and things like that, but it had its meaningful purpose in the game. And yes, you may have lost control of this land and this quest line, but like you weren't fucked out of everything. Like basically, you're like, okay, cool, I can still go over here and do this.
You can still
stuff,
go
right?
in the area, but it's just not controlled by you. Yeah.
And so that was to me a very, very smart way of doing things. And I actually kind of wish that more developers would have put that in or put that into their game.
And see, that's like Arcade did that a lot. Arcade had certain areas that you could take over, so a bigger clan could take over and make a castle and such. And in doing that, you got free land basically, because Arcade had a housing system that was very prominent, right? You got free land, but you also owned the entire area, which made it so that you could tax the area. So your guild as a whole got funds for it, but nobody was losing out. Like you could still go in that area,
right?
It's just you were not in control of it if you weren't in that guild. You weren't getting extra money from it.
Monopoly.
And yeah, and I agree with that. And the one thing that I did read about New World is they do have a territory control system. So they might be trying to go down that route. So like the further that you have, the more people you have, you can make settlements, you can take over areas. And as far as I can tell, if I read correctly, they're going down the taxation route. So they're going to get more gold, everything like that. I don't know exactly what their plans are for it, but there is an incentive for PvP, for people to sign up for PvP at least.
Yeah. So there will be like raids and stuff between like
there will be PvP raids.
I wonder if there'll be like ally system or something like that.
They talked about it a little bit. Yeah, there's ally systems. They wanted to work something like that into it, but mostly it's just like guild versus guild for the most part.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, as someone that played WildStar PvP a lot and was pretty big into battlegrounds, like I understand the draw and pull of the PvP side of things. I just in this type of game, I don't know. I mean, if PvP is a huge focus of it, I feel like you lose so much of that PvP PvE connection that you want. Like,
and that's why they're going down the route that they're going down now. Is they're trying to focus less on the PvP and try and bring more of the PvE into things. And we've seen a huge drastic change in the way that their actual game looks now, right? Previous to this, I can't remember what it was the Game Awards that we were watching that they released that trailer. That trailer was the first look that we had kind of at like PvE threats, right? It was like the monster horde and the undead and everything like that. Prior to that, it was just kind of like you had a couple undead that you encountered out in the wild.
Yeah, but I still feel like that trailer though was still very PvP focused, because at the end of it you see the entire wave of these people going into it and storming a castle, right? Yeah. So to me, I still got like, is this PvP? Is this PvE? Like what are we seeing here?
That's the biggest thing with New World, is that it's like a fine line. I don't know. They've said that they want to go down the PvE route. So I believe them, and when they're saying that they want to go down the the PvE route. But on the other hand, they've already had a huge section of their population that's like, we want PvP, and that's all we want.
Yeah,
right. So it's like, how are you going to please both sides? You know,
I'm worried. I mean, I'm interested, but I'm worried.
That's the same with me. I have a mild interest in it now that it's not straight up a PvP game, but I'm also kind of on the fence with it, where I'm like, is it going to be like every other fucking survival game where, you know, you're going to be able to play it for like 2 weeks and then you've done everything in the game?
Right.
That's it.
Right. I'm worried if they do go the line of like having pure PvP servers, if, you know, what's going to happen to like the PvE PvP servers, if it's like, are those just going to be completely dead and it's just going to be overrun with just PvP servers?
It's very possible. It's very. I don't know if it's PvP servers or if it's a toggle on normal servers.
I mean,
I can't remember what they said exactly, but
to me, right, I am the type of person, and you know, I know that I'm probably one of the only ones, at least in this group or maybe community, that feels this way. But like, I like to play on PvP like open world PvP servers where it's always on. And I get it. People are like, well, griefing, and people that are going to continuously just sit on your corpse and things like that. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, if you're playing a game like WoW or you're playing an MMO, the purpose of this is that you're embodying this character and this is you in this world, right? Like, yes, I get that there's RP servers for that and things, but even in general, like, you are supposed to like video games, are you embodying this character and you want to be sucked in and feel like you're one, right? So to me, if I'm out and I'm playing a game, I don't want to like look at a let's say Horde, because I'm talking about WoW. I don't want to look at the opposing faction or the Horde and just be like, oh, I can't attack him if I'm Alliance, and he can't attack me if I'm Horde out in the world open, because that's not how it would actually play out. Like in your lore, we hate each other. And if I saw you, I'm going to either try to kill you on sight or run and go gather, my people to come out and hunt you down.
Yeah.
So like, I like, and this was why I think World of War or Warhammer had such a big thing. I mean, obviously EA fucked it over, but like they just had this really cool concept of what PvP was, and it meant something, and you were engaged on wanting to do it. So
Yeah, see, the biggest thing with that is like I'm the same way. I do enjoy PvP servers. Like when we're playing on World of Warcraft, I always go for PvP servers. I always have PvP turned on because I enjoy that. The faction versus faction mentality is fun to me. The problem wherein lies is the whole, like with New World, there's no faction. You're just player against
you're just
player.
player, right?
You have there's no reason for you to
right.
combat each other
Exactly.
other than that
You just want to be a
this
dick.
dude
Right.
just wants to be a dick to this dude. And this dude is just wanting to do his own thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the bigger issue. That's the biggest issue in my eyes. Is it's like you're not really in an MMO at that point. You're just a survival again. You're just a PvP survival game,
Right.
and that's what annoys me the most personally.
Yeah, I mean, for them to go down the PvE route, to be 100% honest, I mean, you would, because if they're, you'd have to I don't know, man. Like it would take so much to dedicate lore and time and effort to storytelling to get it. And maybe they've done it, maybe they have, because the game's kind of been ghosted for a long time. And when we're just hearing about it, but I still feel like that's a whole nother process of like development that I don't think that Amazon put in, and maybe they did. I don't know. I mean, Amazon's a fucking billion-dollar company. Like
the biggest issue is that we still know nothing about it. Like the actual way that it was when I was in the alpha is nothing what it is now compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's such a fine line of what do we actually know and what are they providing, what information are they providing. We can't really tell what the information they've provided, because all they've done is just provided us, well, we saw that there was PvP.
Right.
We didn't like the way things were going, so we're going to go down a more PvE route, and this is how we want to do it. But it's early access, could change. Just to let you know.
I don't know, man. Hey, I guess
we could totally be in the dark from what they actually are planning.
Well, that, and I think like their PvP faction based thing is that they're trying to hope that it's just going to be like guilds are going to build their own and do guild versus guild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, even just they could alleviate that by just saying you're going to choose a side. Like you're two people, you're two countries or two whatever that are landing on this place, and you're trying to develop it and own it and take over. You know what I mean?
They could do it. They could do it in two ways, right? They could do it as either the one faction, you're either two different factions that are landing on this new island, or there's one faction that's landing on the island and one faction that was already on the island.
Got the natives,
right? And that can kind of be like the undead type deal that we saw in that trailer, right? Like the gigantic, creepy looking dude and shit. And I think that's a better option personally, because that kind of gives you an instant that's the one good thing about faction versus faction play, right? Is that you instantly have, oh, I'm part of X faction, so you're automatically my enemy. Fuck you, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing with like World of Warcraft. That's why people get so heated when it's like Horde versus Alliance. It's because it's literally been Horde versus Alliance for 14 years.
Well, okay, hold on. Let's pump
other than recently.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
recently,
they completely fucked that over. So
yeah. So but prior to Legion, it was always Horde versus Alliance.
Right.
If you were on Horde, Alliance was like you're gonna die. If you were on Alliance, Horde was like you're gonna fucking die. That's just it.
Yeah. and what I will say too, this is kind of taking a couple steps back, but going to the whole Tarkov kind of thing. The reason that I think Tarkov does what they do well is because, unlike in MMOs or survival games where you lose everything and you're done, in Tarkov it's at any point in time that can happen to anybody. Like it's not like just because you have a base that's got every single one. Like if you're playing in Rust or one of these games and you've just been on the server longer and you've played longer and you've built resources and you've built walls upon walls upon walls upon walls, yeah, you could probably eventually as a character get through it. but it's not like you're as vulnerable as I am just starting off. Like I could go into Tarkov with a pistol and take you out just as easily as I could if I went in with $1 million weapon. So I think that
Oh my god, I was watching Summit earlier, just sorry, but like he took out this dude who had literally a thick case on him with over 25 million freaking amount of gear in that
Wow.
thick case.
jeez,
And just like that.
Why
And
did he
walked
take-
out with it?
why did he take it in the raid with him?
We don't know why the dude had a thick case with him. They were thinking like maybe he accidentally was moving stuff around in his inventory.
Yeah.
But just like that, 25 mil and that guy gone, 25 mil plus on Summit.
Right.
Just
Because. So
See, the problem with that is that like again, it kind of goes back and it kind of boils down to that same mentality where it's like I don't feel like that kind of mentality needs to be in an MMO.
Well, no,
Like, when you're
and-
playing an MMO, it's all about progression. Progression.
right.
of
If
your character.
if I lost a piece
To-
of raid gear because I died in
that- yeah.
PvP,
to then lose like literally the best gear in the game because of some shithead that you didn't notice in the
Right.
corner, that would
you get
that
like
would
a
I would be
0.1%
done.
drop and it's gone.
I'd be gone. I'm done.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, seriously, yeah.
So, well, I mean, other than that, what else? There's nothing really else that MMO wise. I mean, I would like to talk about Pantheon. I think Pantheon, it's not coming out anytime soon.
That's the biggest issue with Pantheon, right? Is that like
it may come. It may go beta. Beta may happen this year. I think beta will happen this year for sure, and we'll have a release 2021. But Pantheon looks very exciting to me. I mean, it is a hardcore old school MMO that is, you have to manage. It's not survival in the sense of like you having to manage like food and water, but you do have to manage like where you go. If you're gonna go to the ice lands of whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
You have to put on gear that is going to be able to give you the resistance to ice because your character will freeze or will take a detrimental to their stats because they're in a cold area and you're not equipped for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like Outward, the game we played for like 2 hours.
Right. Which again,
I
I
mean,
I like,
They
but
did some pretty cool stuff in that with the environments and the survival system in their games.
See, but it kind of boils down to that same thing. Like, why did you guys stop playing that game? Right? You got hated.
I don't
well,
know.
I mean, no, I mean, I think we stopped playing Outward. There's a couple things. So one,
It's a bit clunky for me.
yeah,
don't know.
there's some clunkiness to it, but the big thing in it is like where MMOs do well is they don't have connection. There's no connection to the game. I have none. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things that like system wise where it's like, okay, cool. The world, like if I'm not playing with Scruffy, then and in Scruffy's game, all the progress I made, like my character has it, but my storyline doesn't. So there's no syncing. So I can't just play my own character and and have my own story match up. So that's yeah.
And like another thing is like I don't need my handheld in games, but that game also doesn't have any really sort of direction, to go. Like in games, say like just RPG like Skyrim, they have the main quest and everything. I like to go off the main quest, do my own thing for some time, but then also, go back to that where I know I'm going through the game, progressing and going through like the direction the game is intended. But also at the same time, I'm also a bit free to do whatever I want. That game really has no main direction, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool concept. It's a cool game, but it's
Yeah.
a game that I would say to play by yourself, even though it has the co-op for functionality, play by yourself, which again is sad. Like, yes, if you like Dark Souls, but it's still like it should reward you to play co-op, and it really doesn't reward you to play co-op.
Yeah, it seems like Coach was just kind of thrown in there, just like
yeah,
just what
to
it
have
is,
it
yeah.
in there. But I mean, I think that getting into that solid game where you don't have that connection, so you lose this. Where like with Pantheon, where I think it's going to fail is because it is going to be a
niche.
casualty. Well, I think it's going to be a casualty of its own timeline. Like I think it's taking too long. We're not like I know what they want to do, and I think that you have another game like that's Star Citizen. Star Citizen is a casualty of its own timeline.
I haven't even heard that name in years.
Right. Like for fuck's sake, we've been talking about Star Citizen for almost a decade now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this game has been talked about for a long fucking time, and we're
And those founder packs, bro, the people who put thousands of dollars into those founder packs.
right. Like
Yikes.
just come out at some point, release something at some point. And even though like, yes, like people are like, oh, well, there's playable parts of Star Citizen. It's still not like, it's not enough. It's not enough of what we want. Like, it's cool to go in there and be like, oh, this is what we're doing. Cool. I'm going to jump back out. But like, if with Pantheon, I think that Pantheon could do a good thing of saying, hey, cool, we're going to open up a beta. We're only going to send about these amount of people. Like, we're only going to allow for 300 people to have beta access, which is a very small amount, but at least we could start seeing gameplay. At least we could start seeing something around what it is versus them hosting these, small Twitch, driven streams. Like
very select people.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. Is it's like Go Carnage is literally the only person that I've ever seen play it.
yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
And-
there's points of where there's game delays, and then
I
there's
don't know.
points of where games just are never seemingly going to come out.
yeah. My biggest opinion with Pantheon is I agree with you completely. They need to either give us a date or they need to push it along a little bit further. Just like Star Citizen, I completely agree with you on that. They need to give a date or they need to push it further a little bit further ahead with offering us more persistence and stuff, right?
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing with both Star Citizen and Pantheon now that we bring it up is, again, they're niche games, right? There's certain types of people that want the hardcore MMO. There's certain types of people that want the hardcore space simulator, right? And that's the biggest thing right there that I'm a little worried about with both of those games is how's the community going to look after a month of them releasing. you
Yeah,
know?
but don't you think right now is like the time for hardcore MMOs to be more
I
prevalent?
think it's a good time to be a hardcore MMO because I think that's what a lot of MMO players want now is they want to kind of go back to the roots. But then again, you look at like World of Warcraft Classic, right? That was only really a thing for a month.
Yeah, but I
and
don't think
then it
that's
kind of withered down into it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to judge that with Classic because Classic was a game that we had 15 years ago or whatever else, and it came back out and cool, I get to experience Azeroth again. Well, I get to experience Azeroth now. Like it's yes, the mechanics are different, yes, the dungeons are different or whatever else, in the world is back to the way it was before pre-Cataclysm, but it's still World of Warcraft. You know what I mean?
I
Like
don't know. Like I said, I'm just saying, I'm just basing my opinion off of the kind of outlook of we want a hardcore MMO. Take Ender for instance, right? When Ender kind of went into World of Warcraft, he hadn't really been exposed to early World of Warcraft, right? He had played World of Warcraft, but he was always a cata baby. He had started
Right.
after Cataclysm, right? So he never really experienced that introduction to World of Warcraft Classic. He only lasted like 2 weeks.
yeah, but that's because he has current WoW. Like
Yeah,
let's
that is true.
Let's
Yeah.
say we take WoW Classic and it's not WoW Classic. Let's say we take WoW Classic and we turn it into Warhammer Online, and we say it's Warhammer. We're bringing back Warhammer Online for most of the population. Never played that game, right? I mean, looking out of the three of us, I played it, and out of the three here, and I would guarantee in our chat, like I'm probably one of the only ones that have actually really played that game to remember it. But we say, cool, we're gonna bring this back. It's a hardcore style, older style based MMO. You've never experienced it, and you've never experienced anything that's like it because you can play WoW. I think that the community goes to it. I think the community drives to it.
I think there will be a certain portion of the community that goes to it. I don't think that a good portion of that is going to stick around. Honestly, that's what I think. The hardcore people say that they want the hardcore MMO. The people say that they want the hardcore experience, and then they find out that the hardcore experience is tougher than they actually thought it was going to be, and then they leave for the easier experience of like World of Warcraft or the newer MMOs, right?
Well, I hear that it's okay. So let me ask this: is it? We look at WildStar, right?
Yeah.
My favorite, my baby.
Well, and see, WildStar was again just like that. They were an extremely hard.
Yeah, but
MMO.
what is it? I don't know if it. So why? Here's my thing about when people say WildStar was a hardcore MMO. WildStar wasn't a hardcore MMO. WildStar had a hard in-game progression when it
dungeons
came
and
to
in-game progression.
raids. I think that the problem with this, what made that game difficult, was one, the progression system to actually get into the raid, which I don't think is necessarily a problem. I don't think that, I think that that makes meaningful content, right? I think that says like, cool,
does.
I want to be able to, like, if you want to raid, you need to earn it. You shouldn't just be able to walk in and be like, cool, I want to throw my saber into the fucking fight and go. Well, you didn't earn to get here.
I completely agree with
But
you on that point. The problem with it is though is that you and I agree with that, and you and I are willing to spend that time to do that. But the current generation of gamers are not.
I think they came out with 40 men was too much. Any game, no game right now, no MMO should ever have a 40 man raid. That is going to make you progress like how WildStar or these other games are going to do. If you're going to do that, it needs to be a 20 man raid, in my opinion.
Yeah, they definitely. I think that they oversaturated with the amount of people that was required for sure.
Right.
And that just created a whole nother clusterfuck of its own.
Yeah, I mean, so that's where I think that it was, and I still think WildStar was ahead of its time. I think WildStar ahead of its time. If it comes out today and it didn't have NCSoft behind it and it had its own, it could have been self-published or one of these other companies behind it that isn't going to shit on an MMO, I think it would have been successful. I think that they would have actually done really, really well. And yes, there's a side project that's going on. And this is a great point talking about the WoW Classic versus, and wanting to play hardcore. WildStar, I could go right now and get into the WildStar private server. Guess what? I'm not going to. And the reason is because I experienced that game. I went through an experience. I know there's no more development for that game. I don't want to play it. That's my same.
It's at a standstill.
That's my same thing with WoW Classic. It's just like, I loved what WoW Classic was because it brought me back to vanilla WoW. I hate current WoW. I hate the current generation of what WoW is. I think most people do fucking hate.
I don't think you'll find any argument on that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know what that game goes to. That's like saying to me, it's like saying, I'm going to go watch the movie Titanic. Well, why the fuck am I going to go watch the movie Titanic? I know what fucking happens in the end. The boat sinks. You going to change it? Are you going to tell me you're going to change history? I'm going to go watch, not saying I don't go watch World War II movies or whatever else, but I enjoy World War II movies that are like Inglourious Bastards more than I want to go see, something that's just like, oh, okay. Like I know what happens at the end of this,
but again, we're kind of talking in circles right now. See, again, that's me and you. I enjoy World War II movies. I would enjoy going back and seeing those old movies that I went back to, right? But the new generation, I guarantee you, probably isn't hankering down and going and like, I need to go and watch fucking Titanic. I guarantee that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Paint me like one of your French girls, Enigma.
like
I'm just saying.
But that's the biggest thing that I'm just worried about, like this whole hardcore MMO franchise and movement that's kind of saying, I'm for it. I'm more than for it because I want us to go back to the old days where progression was progression, and if you spent enough time in a game, you were actually rewarded for it, right? Rather than just going and playing for like 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks.
I think now is the time to do it. I think now is you strike when the iron's hot, and that's why I think that Pantheon can do it if they come out soon enough. And I think the big thing there is, WoW is in a really bad spot, and WoW is the only MMO that we like. All right, well, hold on. Let me take a step back. Yes, there's Final Fantasy. Yes, there's ESO. Yes, there's Guild Wars. I get it. For anybody out there that wants to be like, "Oh, that's not the fucking only MMO," but guys, in comparison, like WoW is the MMO that is still held strong and has held strong for a long period of time. Final Fantasy is the next closest. And that's
they're falling down pretty quick though. That's the big fun. That's the big part right there. Is just Blizzard is just. I can't tell if it's like a purposeful thing or what, but they are definitely shooting themselves in the foot left and right on these last decisions that they've been making.
Well, I mean that kind of moves into another segment that I want to talk about, which is Vulcan. So because there's this lack of MMOs out there, we all played Grim Dawn and we all loved Grim Dawn. Right, we all burn out on Grim Dawn, pretty quickly. And even going back to Grim Dawn, like I had a hankering to go play it again. I booted it back up and I went to go back in it, and I'm like, fuck me, bro. Like I got to go all the way back from start my character on veteran, then work him to elite, then go to ultimate. Like, Vulcan officially is releasing on the 13th of February, and I want to talk about this because this is actually somewhere where me and Enigma kind of may split and differ a little bit. Normally we're pretty close in opinions, but I know that we have probably some contrary beliefs in what this is. So Enigma doesn't think that Woken is necessarily ready for release. Is that kind of the platform that you're?
I don't. Yeah, no. I looking at what you've been playing the last few days, they're in a good spot. I think, right? They are definitely in a good spot. But just the we've talked about it last night, right? There's certain quality of life things that they still need to get down. The whole holding the control, the old thing, that shouldn't even fucking be a thing. You know, remapping your keys. Why can't you remap your keys? That makes
Wait, you
no
can't
sense
remap
to
your
me.
keys?
Well, yeah,
your
yes
ability
and
keys.
no.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like you can't move and
You know,
and shoot
there's-
or whatever.
There's certain things where they like it's a gorgeous looking game, right? It looks gorgeous. Like, I'm not going against that. It's you know, it's a very pretty looking game. I just don't feel like there's some lines that I was listening to that I'm like, you know, the story's a little off, the gameplay's a little off. It's still a little clunky in some instances. I think it still needs like a good like 6 months maybe worth of development before they can even be like, yeah, it's ready for release. And that's something that I've been seeing a lot of as of late, right? Is they're releasing, and we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast. I'm almost, and we were talking about it a little bit last night. I'm almost of the opinion that they're releasing due to monetary reasons. They're running out of money, and that's why they're releasing. And which is, if that's the case, good on them. You know, that's cool. If you think it's ready, and you're going to continue to support it, by all means.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
if
at
they're-
a
if
price
they're
tag of
literally-
$30, right?
And
well,
it's actually getting up
it's
to
30
40.
now. It's going to be moved to 45.
45. Yeah.
Wait, oh,
It's going to go to
See, I
45 at the end after.
Yeah, we
I was
just
gonna
we just
say-
learned that last night.
Yeah.
30 is like a decent place for it. Even maybe 25.
Thir-
would be
30
more
is
ideal.
30 is a decent and ideal place for it, even when it
Yeah.
releases.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But
Personally.
45 when it releases, no, I wouldn't
Yeah.
pay 45 for that.
So that's kind of my opinion. Is I don't feel it's ready for develop or for release. I think it still needs a little bit of development on it. I think it still needs a little bit of quality, a little bit of polish on it.
It kind of scares me too. I was from what I was watching, I was getting kind of Devillian vibes watching you play.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
no, I wouldn't go that far. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
Yeah,
that's
I don't know. I wouldn't go that
It's
far.
Not the whole entire thing, but just like the flashiness and everything. I don't want them to like solely, it's a really flashy new isometric game. Like I hope they don't really just try to take it off of that.
See,
and
I
they
don't-
really try to build on some of the core like mechanics of it more.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know, Woken is a top-down isometric action RPG that is developed. I've played so
Is it
many.
off the Unreal
One
Engine?
of these fucking million of these things. It's off CryEngine, but
CryEngine, that was a
I
little-
think, if I'm not mistaken, this is a couple of developers that came from the original Diablo 2. I don't know, man. Like all of these guys fucking splintered from the same shit. Like they all came from the same primordial pool.
Right. Somebody came from PoE, somebody
right,
came
like,
from this, from Dawn
whatever. But
PoE,
in any
whatever.
case, like
I think with the Diablo, I think you're thinking of Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn had some really
D2
Diablo,
maybe, yeah. I don't know.
developers on
I
it.
know these guys have some kind of attachment to one of those games, and I don't know which one. But in any case, it is. So it had a tumultuous beginning because it started off something completely different. If you go look at Woken way in the back, like way back when, like
Dude,
even before I got it,
me and you were talking about
it was
this,
fucking way
several
different
months ago.
Right.
It was a completely fucking different
Yes.
game. It was like an RPG.
Yeah, it didn't
almost.
look anything like this. It was not like there was no multiplayer. It was still top down, but it was almost a turn-based RPG style game, like fucking way different. And then all of a sudden it became this it became an action RPG, and that's when I got into it because one of our community members, Graphics, was like, hey, take a look at this, and we looked at it. And it was beautiful, and it was really cool, but it really lacked any kind of like replayability. It was, there was, I think maybe only one act, if even that. And
It
there
didn't
was
have X.
there was
When we first got into it, it was literally just like 2 or 3 quests, and then you could just go and roam around like 3 areas.
right. So it was very, very minimal. And they didn't have like all of these things that they have now. Then the game kind of slowly evolved, and then personally, I think it got to a really fucking weird spot where it didn't know what it was necessarily doing, and it became this. I remember playing it like maybe like six to 8 months ago, and it was it has the storyline that it did now, where like there's these demons and all of a sudden you're playing these like super built like god titan character things.
Yeah.
I don't, it was in whatever, and it still has this like that storyline, but it wasn't smooth. And so now coming back into it because it's releasing, I'm like, you know what, I want to jump in. I want to see, is this game really ready for mainstream release? So part of me says yes. Part of me says, okay, I'll there's shit that needs to get fixed. But where I'll give them a pass is if they are releasing the game because they, yes, need the money to continue, or they also see an opportunity now to say, you know what, we can stay in early access and no one's going to know about what we are or who we are or where we're at or even know that we exist, or we can launch, right, and fix the quality of life stuff quickly and then get the funding in to start pumping out content, you know, and more content. So they've already released a roadmap, or not even a roadmap, but basically what is going to be available at launch. Right now, you can buy it for $30. And if you're interested in the game, my recommendation will be buy it, because it's going to go up in price point. Like,
yeah, buy it at the $30 if you have any interest in Wolcen, because it does look like it'll be a cool experience. I like watching you play the last couple of days. I've been like, okay, maybe I'll reinstall it, give it another try. I kind of want to honestly wait until they fully release it, because if they're just going to wipe it again, there's no reason for me to install it right now and go through it. Just have it wipe again.
Yeah,
but
well, I
definitely. Definitely right now my opinion would be, if you're interested in it, definitely buy it at the $30 range, because $45 is way overpriced.
It is.
I don't
so
know what it is about that.
Yeah,
that extra like 15 or whatever dollars, but it is.
Here's my thing where I think that it's a detriment to them, right? And Mike, the community for it seems to be pretty amazing. I mean, I jumped in and there's a lot of positive reviews around this. There's a lot of positive buzz. I don't really give that much of a shit about Steam reviews, but there's a good amount of buzz around it, and the community's like, well, I don't mind giving the money because the game deserves it. Okay, yes, but and we talked about this with Deep Rock, there is a point where you price your game out. Like you've outpriced your game for what it is. We talked about it last week with Temtem too. Right? Yeah, yep. And like they overpriced it. This is at $30. I'm okay with. At 45, I'm fucking out. Like at 45, I'm fucking out unless I see what happens on release. And because again, release, they are launching, you're going to be a level cap of 90, PvP, in-game, a shit ton of new, like I think 40 new abilities, 12 new, something, I don't know. It's like a whole, like it's on their Steam page. It's like a whole list of shit that they are adding into this at release. And so some people are kind of like, well, why are they doing it at the release and not giving it to you now in beta? And I actually don't necessarily mind that, because I don't want to play all the way through the game in early access and then have release and be like, I have nothing to play.
Burn yourself out.
Right. I have nothing to play. There are things quality of life wise that are right. There are, but at the same time, like, I think where so many games get caught up in like, I need to make sure that quality of life is right and I have shit for content. I feel like this game, I can tell you right now, in the short amount of time that I've played it, like the 2-3 days that I've actually really dove into it and given it and trying to give it a fair crack, I've seen enemies that I've never seen before. They're completely different abilities. There are mechanics to the game that I like about Grim Dawn, kind of like where there's boss mechanics. It has the feel of Diablo with like, I can shred through, some enemies, but then you get to a point where there's these boss enemies and these boss battles where it's like, you're not shredding through them, and if you don't know the mechanic, you're fucked, bro.
Grim Dawn did that well.
Grim Dawn does it very well.
Yeah, Grim Dawn is, if you didn't have your resistances set correctly for each encounter, you were fucked.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a problem that I have with Grim Dawn, to where like the build potential there becomes almost negligent to the resistance build. Like, and I think that this game, I do like the fact that if you log in and you choose right off the bat whether you want to be a ranger, you want to be a mage, or you want to be a warrior, or whatever. And so basically melee, magic, range. You can swap your stuff on the fly. It's basically, so like my character doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what I am doing. It's all about my spec and what I'm putting points into. Whereas like with Grim Dawn, once you lock into those two classes, that's your fucking class and that's it. And if you fucking don't like it, well, you can kind of respec, but for the most part, you're probably fucked.
Yeah.
With this, I can throw abilities on, and I do like that it has the Diablo style where what abilities are on my cast bar, they're leveling up. So like I can really find a build that works for me that I like, that I think is cool, and I can throw it in there and generate. Where it becomes clunky is as playing like as a ranger. It definitely is a game that saying if you're a ranger, you need to have a tank with you, because it's like you can't map a move button and a shoot button. So your left click in most most action RPGs is like your move, and then you right click to do your attack, or you 1 2 3 4 ASW, whatever your normal keys. In this, it's locked. So like your move button is your initial primary attack button, and you have to hold shift to stand still.
Yeah.
Maybe for me that's not that big of a deal, but for me that's a big deal. For other people it may not be, but it just feels weird. Like
Yeah, no, I get that. I wouldn't like
It
that.
it definitely goes against the grain of what your brain has been taught.
right.
What a top-down isometric, a top-down isometric action RPG should be. It
Right.
definitely it feels weird. It
I
feels
just-
very weird
Messed
if you're
up when I'm
used
trying
to
to
it.
click somewhere, but I click on something by accident and end up shooting it.
Well, the
Yeah.
other issue that happens is in the loot system, because, and I've gotten used to it now, which is fine. But I think again, if we're talking mass appeal, mass release, like you're coming out, like this needs to get fixed almost ASAP, because it will turn people off. Is like loot on the ground, it shows up and then it goes away. I get why they do it. I now understand why they do it, because you go and look at something like PoE or fucking Diablo, and your entire screen is filled with text because there's just so much loot on the ground, you can't fucking get around it. Grim Dawn does a good job because I can filter that shit and be like, I don't want to see all of this crap that's on the ground. I just want to see these specific items. This game basically says, well, the way we're going to do that is we're going to make them disappear. Like the text is going to disappear, but to pick up loot is the same button as my move and my shoot. So as I'm moving across the map, I'm filling up my fucking inventory with stuff that I don't necessarily want. So I have to like, you hold down Alt or you press Alt and it brings the inventory back up and lets you see what's on the ground. And then you can
So
kind of
there
go
is
pick
no
it up.
loot filter
No,
at all yet?
No.
And do you know if
There's no
do you know
auto
if there's
sort,
gonna be,
bro.
like any sort of mod like
I
capability in this game?
maybe,
yet?
I don't know. There may be some modding
Yeah.
that's
Like,
allowed.
we see most of these isometric RPGs have modding capabilities.
Yeah, I mean,
That
I
would probably help them.
my thought is that Wilson is basically going to go in and they're going to release the game, and then they're going to spend the time to say, cool, now we're doing like what is it quality of life wise that you guys want, and we're gonna launch with it, like, or we're going to fix it, right? But it has to be quick. It's got to be quick, and it's a dangerous game to play because
That's my biggest thing. Is it's just such when you release a game like this, right? There's not many isometric top-down ARPGs, right? But when you release a game like this, if you don't start impressing the core player base quickly with what you have,
Yeah.
they're just gonna go back to fucking Diablo.
right.
Or
Well,
Path of Exile.
and the thing is too, like it at that price tag, it's such a dangerous
Yeah.
thing. At $19, fuck it, you can have some
Well,
quality of life
that's-
shit
that's-
that's
where people
especially-
lazy peon are gonna come in.
Yeah.
And go, don't buy this game.
Don't mention that fucker in my fucking presence.
but that well no
I
he's
know,
but
that's a trigger word for you.
That-
it is a trigger word.
but that's the thing, and honestly that's what killed WildStar. Like WildStar 2 like had all of these fucking trash ass fucking content creator, streamers, whatever you want to call them, like YouTubers that came in that were not, they were accustomed to fucking World of Warcraft hand holding, and when they got here they're like, oh, this is complete dog shit. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, just because you don't like some aspect of it doesn't mean that it's dog shit, and it ruined it. And that's the thing with this. Like, if they don't fix the shit fast, right, then it's just gonna be a nonstop, just berated on,
Yeah, the bad
Pretty much.
right,
publicity is gonna tear them out.
right.
Can we
It's done.
can we talk about the most glaring and the biggest thing that I have a complaint about?
What is that?
And it's the left and right armor.
Oh yeah.
Okay, why?
I mean, I understand that too.
I don't get that at all. To me,
I fucking hate that, dude.
why? What does it matter? Like,
Because
why?
It's literally two extra pieces of fucking equipment that you have to
It seems
find. And
unnecessary.
the equipment
no,
is
it's-
already hard enough to find.
Okay, but here's my thing again, right? What break it down to its base level. If I'm adding an extra slot for my hands and an extra slot for my weapons, then at that point I now get to go and say, cool, I can customize my build a little bit more.
You get more build versatility, but in a game like this game, like ARPGs that are extensively known for being extremely difficult in most cases for end game builds, right? Like one of my end game builds for World of Warcraft, I spent like 3 weeks trying to fucking grind up for a weapon, a one-handed wand. Right. If you're literally gonna do that, and I have to have that much difficulty to get 2 extra pieces on top of my gear, no.
Yeah.
Are you?
Fuck
So
that,
wait a minute.
man.
Hold on a second. So we just had this entire conversation about wanting to have in-game content, about wanting to have a reason to continue to play the game. So them giving you a reason by saying, "Hey, there's now another piece of gear that you can grind out."
I
You
don't-
don't want to
I-
do it.
It seems too much. Like, too
It's
overwhelming.
like I
I
said
really-
last night. It seems like it's overly complicated for no reason
Yeah.
to me.
I don't know. I
You're
disagree.
a big fan of theory crafting and going really in depth with things, right, Sin?
Yeah,
So this is
I mean,
why
I like building. I like
guess I
being
see
able
what
to
you're
tweak
talking
my build.
about.
Yeah, like I understand too.
I understand what you're talking about. The ability to have a bigger pool for like build versatility, different builds and such. It's a nice thing, but it's like again, it's if they're anything like not World of Warcraft, Diablo with their drop rates. That's just going to piss me off even more if I'm going to have to literally spend an extra 2 weeks on
Yeah,
top of the 2 weeks that I already had to spend to try and grind out the other pieces of armor.
Yeah.
That's going to annoy me personally.
I don't know because
It's not a deal breaker for me. It's like it's not one of those things where it's going to be like I'm not going to play this game because of that, but it is definitely going to be annoying.
I
me,
just
personally.
to me, like if you're getting gear at a decent rate where like I'm looking at it and going, cool, like yes, this is the gear, this is the item that I want and I have to grind to get it, but I am able to at least replace that gear on somewhat of a decent basis, then I'm okay. Like I feel like my character's progressing.
If their drop rates are decent, they don't need to be like an ungodly easy drop rate for me. Like I understand.
Well, that's to
the
me like
whole-
Diablo is fucking, to me Diablo's drop rate is stupidly easy. Like it's just
and to me it's is in some cases it was stupidly hard. Like, again, for that wand, I literally ground for 4 weeks to try and get the actual roll that I needed.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part right there is like when I'm not talking about like the gear replacement while you're going through the story or early in game. I'm talking about the gear replacement for like your final fucking build. Like this is your god roll right here. If I have to then get one god roll for one shoulder and one god roll for an arm, right? And then I'm like, oh fuck, now I need 2 more god rolls. That's gonna annoy me.
So I where I get annoyed at is where I have a piece of gear that can the gear itself stats are RNG'd. I'm not a fan of that at all personally, because that to me is adding a level of just bullshit that I don't want to have to go through. Like if
I don't know, but see, we talked about that with fuck, what was that game we were playing on Revenant? Remnant.
Yeah.
See there's a fine line between when things are too easy
Mhm.
and when things should have had randomized stats, because that was one of the biggest complaints that I had about Remnant, and I was all about Remnant, right? I was fucking on Remnant's dick like crazy.
It was way too easy.
The
You could
problem with
max that
Remnant
guns easily.
is you literally got one drop and
yeah,
that was it. You were done.
yeah. Then you just grinded the currency and whatnot to just upgrade that gun to.
well, so okay, well hold on. Here's the thing. So is that because though Remnant, like you didn't get, it wasn't like you were just getting drops after drop after drop after drop, so you were constantly replacing your gun anyway. That I think was because you literally were going in and saying, you know what, I'm gonna only get one gun out of this entire run, and it's the boss gun, and that's all I'm gonna give a shit. Because it's not like you were getting gear drops inside the game in Remnant. Like it was just like once you got to a boss battle, then you got some shard that you would craft it.
But again, that's the whole thing is like that was what kind of turned me off from Remnant, was there wasn't really that kind of
Right. So in that game, they
kind of
should have
grind,
had that. They
right?
should have had the
They
stat.
should have had that.
Right.
But then again, on top of that, I do agree with you that like Diablo 3 is extremely bad with their randomization on the
Right.
shit. Like that's one of the reasons why it took me 4 weeks to get that fucking wand, is because I got like 3 of the wands, but they were never the correct.
You
roll
get
that I
to that
needed.
spot where like, and you almost, and again, let's talk about like you bring in something like Path of Exile, right? We talk about the 3 main, this game has right now, I think three main things it's going against. Three main games. You have got Diablo,
Path of Exile,
Diablo 4, and I think Torchlight 3.
and Torchlight 3. Yep.
To me, I think this game was like, fuck, we have to get out here now.
But see, the thing that they've got against them, though, against at least one of those games, is they're at a $45 price range, whereas Path of
The other game
Exile
is
is
free.
free.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's correct this too. That game is free to install. You want to fucking be anywhere competent or
Yeah.
even remotely play in game, you have to spend money on it. Like,
I mean, I could argue with that. I've not spent at all that much money on it, and I've played it just fine in the
Have you
past.
done the mapping?
No, I haven't.
what I'm talking about, in-game.
Reasonably, I haven't gotten that far, honestly. But the fact of the matter is that if you're looking at what you get for $45 out of Wolcen, and you're looking at what you can get for free out of
Yeah.
Path of Exile, it's the same fucking thing.
Right. You can definitely get a lot of game time. from
You can
Path of
get just
Exile.
as much game time for
That's
free out of Path of Exile than you can out of Wolcen for $45.
Yeah.
yeah,
If
But
you
we
ask
can
me,
all
at
agree
least.
that $45 is just
it's
too
just,
much.
it's too much of a price tag. It's too high of a
It
price
is.
tag. It's
Yeah.
too high. But I think
Hell,
like
even going to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep
You're good.
interrupting you, but even going to Diablo 3, you've got 3 expansions worth of content for, I think right now it's roughly like $35. I think
yeah, but
is what you pay for it.
Look at-
Don't quote me on that. Obviously, I don't know how much it is right
Kind
now.
of like Grim
but-
Dawn too, with their deal.
Yeah, and Grim Dawn, exactly.
so okay, so
But
so-
even in the
like-
base game for Grim Dawn, I think you would have as much, if not more, content than what you'll have in Wolcen. on release.
like to me,
On
if
release, yeah,
if Grim
probably.
Dawn allowed you to change your class change your class at a cost, like
Yeah.
change your class at a cost,
Mm-hmm.
have it to where once
a cost of what, by the way?
just like a in-game currency of
In-game
some sort.
currency.
Yeah,
Just like something that you're
Something in-game.
yeah, something you're grinding or something like
Yeah,
that.
I wasn't sure if you're talking about like microtransactions now.
no,
Not microtransactions. Yeah, we don't do that shit.
So
yeah.
Grim
Grim
Dawn-
like PoE, dude.
and I'm gonna go through the 3, right? So I'm gonna go through I'm gonna go through Grim Dawn, I'm gonna go through Path of Exile and Diablo real quick. Torchlight, I don't know enough about Torchlight to see. I know that Torchlight 3 I'm interested in. It's coming to Steam. I think that's gonna be
I
has some
honestly,
digital.
with Torchlight 3, I see Torchlight 3 as more of an arcadey action top-down isometric RPG, right?
Right.
I don't necessarily lump it in most times with like Diablo or Path of Exile.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's not for
that's
your
just my
hardcore
way of looking
players
at it.
as
You know?
much.
So-
yeah,
So Grim Dawn, the way they make that game be the end all be all, right? Is to, and I'll compare it to Last Epoch just fine. I absolutely, because I've played Last Epoch and I have time in Last Epoch and I can compare there. So Grim Dawn, they make it to where you can in-game change your class with in-game currency. They make it to where once I get to Elite or Ultimate, I don't have to fucking replay again the same shit. I can just literally start my character and be like, cool, I want to play this character on Ultimate. And 2, they make it so it's not such a situation where, which I think if being able to change your classes are fine, but where resistances become so much of a fucking important thing, like that, if they do that, to me, it becomes probably the end all be all top down isometric game, because that game is amazing in all categories other than that, right? Path of Exile. Path of Exile's game, again, I will argue that it is not a free to play game. You have to pay money to actually play that game competently at in-game levels. Yes, you can get through the game or whatever else, but when you want to do in-game, you are not gonna be able to do it without paying for there's too much inventory, and that's the thing. I think that
So see my other part with that, right? And then again, I feel like I'm interrupting you too much. Let me know if I am. But
good.
with Path of Exile, again, even paying $45 that you're going to pay for what's it called, Wolcen,
Yeah, Wilson.
you're still going to get the same experience, even more
Right.
out of Path of Exile. Just
okay.
paying $45.
There's a thing that goes into that where the reason that you play these games is for in-game. It's not for the lead up to in-game. It is the in-game that I'm playing, right? So at that point, like, does Path of Exile cost $45? No, it does cost. I think to actually get the inventory stats that you need, I think it's 30. I think it's $30.
It's like $30 to get all of your
The
your storage
stashes,
facility
right? The
stuff.
stashes.
The stashes and everything like that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. It becomes so much of a fucking grind at the end of that game. That game becomes a literal just map fest of blowing shit up at a rate that I can't see. I can't fucking fathom to like, at that, like, their skill system is amazing. Their build system is amazing. I love the fact that you can customize these builds into such different things. It's phenomenal. But the fact is I don't want to play that fucking game because I don't want to get to the very end and be able to nuke everything in 3 seconds and then be like, fuck, okay, cool. I need to go to a new map, nuke everything again, and just continue this process until I get this thing. And then on top of that, to have a shit ton of gear just vomited in my face to where I can't see anything. It's too much. And Diablo 3 to me is like, that's all Diablo in a whole nother realm. Like Blizzard has just shat on Diablo in so many ways to be like, like I like the Greater Rift idea, but at the same time, like they don't do anything new. Like it's just, it's literally nothing new. And every season is
Blizzard subscribes to the way of thinking of if it's not fucking broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
they've always been
they don't add anything into Diablo to make it like somewhat enjoyable, in my opinion. Like and they shoehorn these classes so much to where like literally there's only really one way to play the class that season, and that's about it. You can't really theory craft in Diablo.
Well, and I would argue that that's their community shoehorning the fucking builds, right? That's the community is the ones that are making the meta builds. Blizzard is just offering the tools for that. They still have builds out there that are completely viable. It's just the community is the ones that are making it. If you're not running this build, you're doing it wrong.
So
right.
The Justified said that PoE does have a filter, and you're not wrong. It does have a filter that I can build into the system to not see all of the spew, but that can be toned down some, man. Like what they're doing is they're hitting into, and I mean, this is going way scientific with this, but they're basically tapping into the neurological effect that happens whenever you open up a gift and there's like confetti that blows out everywhere and whatever else. Like, it's just this, like, there's a reason that when you open something on a video game, it shakes and then goes and then explodes. It's because it releases endorphins in your brain and you like it. It's the same concept there, but you can overdo it. And yes, you can get a filter for it, but like, it just is still, to me, too much. Going into
overwhelmed with a bunch of shit gear that you don't need at all in that level of play.
And going into Last Epoch, last Epoch and this are priced almost identically, 35 and 30 right now, 45 soon. Last Epoch to me,
is that game full release?
No.
I haven't heard of it.
Last Epoch to me is it's fucking rough, man. Like it is in I almost feel like this is like a college student's project to play this, to build this game. Their build concepts are kind of cool. Like you can, you put points in different, like these trees to unlock different trees, right? But it still falters in the sense that there's only certain ways to build your character, and you don't get really the ability to theory craft a whole lot. And not to say that like that Wolcen, you can really do a lot of theory crafting. I mean, you get these abilities, but what we haven't seen is like, you don't unlock the abilities as you level up. You have to find them in Wolcen. So you actually have to, like, they drop and then you can learn them. In Last Epoch, it's not that. You just learn the abilities as you level, and then you put points into it, and then you get that ability. The storylines are very, very similar in Last Epoch, except for like in Last Epoch, you're like time traveling to different periods of time. It's just, it's to me, it's all over the place, and it's a mess, and it's clunky. Like it's extremely clunky, but some of the quality of life filters are in there that Wolcen should have, and it doesn't.
This one's reminding me a lot more of Grim Dawn than PoE or anything else.
Well, are you talking about Last Epoch?
Last Epoch,
yeah. No, absolutely. It does have the look feel of it is very PoE look. It's not flashy like right.
Like
Wolcen. And honestly,
and Diablo.
That Wolcen, it's a draw, man. Like, to be a good looking fucking game, there's something about being eye candy.
It's definitely a draw, but it's one of those things where I almost feel like in a way they're kind of banking on the fact that they're like, hey, we have a really pretty engine. Come and play our game because we have a really pretty engine. Don't pay attention to the shit that we haven't done yet.
That's
right?
what I was saying earlier. Yeah, like I don't need all this flashy stuff. At a point, I might actually even get tired of all the flashiness. I don't really need it. For if it's a good isometric game for me and it's got good mechanics, and
'Cause that's
good
always-
life features. That's all I really need in a game.
That's always kind of been the whole thing with the top down isometric RPGs, right?
Yeah.
It's never been about how pretty they are. It's been
Yeah.
about how they play, how good they feel playing them. That's why people still play Diablo 2. That's why people still play Diablo 1.
Mhm.
You know,
I don't know if I agree with that. Think about Diablo 4. Like, how many people talked about how good Diablo 4 looks?
yes, but that's the new Blizzard basing themselves off of the fact that, hey, we need to have a flashy presentation to sell more pieces,
Right,
to
but-
sell more games.
I don't play Grim Dawn because it is a beautiful game. Like, I mean, it's pretty in some aspects,
Yeah,
but
but
I don't
that's-
play
that's
Grim
what-
Dawn
that's
for
what
being
I'm
pretty.
saying.
But I would definitely be more inclined to play it if the characters, like my model of my character, looked better. Like me
I think
putting
we
my
all
gear
would at this
on,
point.
like I want to see that,
Like-
like
If Wilson has
I
a
think that's
good cosmetic system that might actually appeal to me.
Yeah.
Because you don't
I
really
think
see a
that's-
good cosmetic system in these isometric games.
I think that's a basis that we have pushing forward into the new generation of games where everything's getting, higher resolution, higher scale. We got 4K monitors now. Everything looks gorgeous. And I think that's one thing that we're kind of pushing for is, well, if I'm playing a game, it does need to look good, but it also needs to feel good, right?
Right.
Whereas like several years down the road, it was more like it needs to feel good. If the graphics are on point, that's an even better thing, right?
oh yeah, I
But
mean,
if they're not amazing, we can still get past the fact that it has shitty graphics for decent gameplay, right?
right.
Yeah, that's how a lot of games have lived so far.
Yeah.
Plus modding too.
It's like
Modding has kept a lot of games alive.
it's like Mortal. I used to play an MMO called Mortal that was it was the shittiest looking fucking MMO that I played. It wasn't as bad as some of them that I've played in the past, but the reason why I played it is because it had some unique mechanics. It had cool gameplay. It was a buggy fucking mess, but I was able to fucking kind of sacrifice that for the fact that I liked the gameplay.
Yeah.
for
What
it.
about-
I liked the gameplay loop and everything like that?
Let me play devil's advocate. Why do you not play Project Gorgon then? Because Project Gorgon looks like
That's the thing that kind of goes onto it with that. I would play Project Gorgon. I don't like the current way that it feels. I've played it in the past. I've played the demos and everything like that. I'm not basing the fact that I don't want to play it off of the graphics. I'm basing it off the fact that I haven't had a good experience with it yet.
okay. All right. I mean, I get it. Hey,
I'm also-
I don't mind graphics. I can play with shitty graphics, but I understand that like having beautiful graphics can polish over some of the bullshit that you're gonna get.
I'm also extremely spoiled because I came from BDO, right? I played BDO for 2 years and it has gorgeous graphics, but the gameplay on it got to a point that I was like, I'm done.
I don't remember which button it is. Fuck. But what's the fucking point? I forgot the wait. Hold on.
What's the fuck?
Yes!
Like I said, I'm done playing it. I told you guys already. I'm thinking about going back and playing it because I don't have any fucking MMOs to play. But it definitely is one of those things
No.
where
Go play.
I
Crimson
ground
Desert.
myself out of it for sure. I am going to play Crimson Desert.
No, for
Yep.
real? Oh
Yep.
boy.
Oh god, dude. Why? You know they're gonna turn it into a
He's-
fucking.
Episode
He's literally
50,
had that
Crimson
shit
Desert.
the entire time, dude.
Oh, absolutely. For anybody that's new to the channel or new to the podcast or just new in general to us, like that button was solely started because of BDO. Like a couple years ago because of BDO. Because
Me and Sid got a little tussle because.
oh,
of
we
that
absolutely
fucking
did. Like we almost went to blows because he's just like
Oh,
BDO is a
shit.
good fucking MMO, and I'm like, there's no fucking point to this game, and he's like, there is
But
a.
I still do think BDO is a
What's
good
the-
MMO,
what's the
but it's
fucking
only a
point?
good it's only a good MMO for certain types of people.
It's not. It's
I'm glad we got past all that.
We're
It
fine.
doesn't seem like we really did.
such a fucking bullshit
We've
game.
just
We
buried it. We've
skirted
just kind of
past it
we've just kind
barely.
of swept it up underneath the rug.
I
and we
have
don't
no
talk about it
point
too
to
often.
play that game. There's no point at all. In any case, so yeah. What I will say, and let's, I do want to kind of touch on Blizzard a little bit, right? With what talking about isometric games, talking about this stuff, you know, where do you see what they're? Well, okay. Let me say why I'm worried about Diablo 4, because it kind of talks about Warcraft Reforged. You literally just needed to reskin a game and update some UI features and be done, and they completely fucked that game up. Like, how do you fuck up a remaster?
And it wasn't just them doing that. Like the entire principle of them redoing Warcraft 3 was they were going to update the UI, they were going to update sprite graphics, they were going to update it to a higher resolution game for the resolution for the graphics, right? And they were going to update all the cutscenes with the new dynamic camera views, the new, you know, everything like that. Update it to where it was more of a representation of what they wanted it to be in 2020, right? They didn't even fucking do that. That's the worst part about it, is like they didn't even try, and they're still selling copies of that off of that same principle.
Oh yeah,
like they still haven't removed that video that they had with the upgraded cutscenes and everything like that. It's still being marketed as that.
Yeah,
what they have on that video.
Like this is a proper showing of how far Blizzard has come, like, and just dropped, and like how far they've fallen.
I keep saying it to people whenever they say that. I don't call Blizzard anymore. There is nobody there from Blizzard, the old Blizzard, anymore. It's Activision Blizzard now.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh man, Diablo 4, like, it's gonna be like Diablo 2." Okay, yeah. So look at what they've done to Warcraft 3. You want them to remake Diablo 2? Do you
right.
Like? Do you really want
flop,
them?
Right?
Do you really want them to destroy Diablo 2 for what you remember it as? Like,
and the worst part about it is it's like you look at Warcraft 3 Reforged, right? They did that with an IP that's made them money, a shit ton of money, and that's been like an iconic IP for them.
Dude, right? Original Warcraft 3 is still an iconic game that people still play.
What I'm saying is they did that with an iconic IP of theirs, right? What the fuck are they going to do with an IP that they have literally given zero shits about for the last 20 years?
Yeah. Like this whole BlizzCon, everyone was like, this BlizzCon was about Diablo 4, bro. And trust me and Enigma sat through BlizzCon and was like, yeah. Fuck yes, like Diablo 4.
Good. Like it looked amazing. But
then the more and more that you look, and the more like people start scratching like underneath the surface and digging into it, bro, they're gonna fuck that game up, like completely fuck that game up. 100%. Like I do not have faith in Diablo 4 right now at all. Like I just don't. And it's really sad. Like I don't have faith in anything that Blizzard touches. Overwatch 2, what the fuck are they doing? Like
there's no reason for it.
Why?
Overwatch, there is literally no reason for Overwatch 2.
Like
it's
Jesus
literally
Christ.
Overwatch with single player bullshit in it.
Right.
Yeah. And they've not really updated it with anything. It's literally just Overwatch with a couple of new maps. But they're gonna charge you for it. Yeah. They're gonna charge you full price for it.
Oh yeah.
It should just be like onto Overwatch. Like
it should just be an added content
in Overwatch.
It just shows you how just like far from reality and how just detached they are to be like. It
shows you how much Activision has their hands in Blizzard now.
Like we're gonna do a single player game. What? Why? Dude, it's the same thing. It's not even like Activision is just doing it with Blizzard games, which we know Call of Duty, but like they came out last year and were like, hey, Call of Duty, we're slowing down on Call of Duty games. We're gonna like space this out. You know what happened today? They announced that they're making another Call of Duty game. Like I'm telling you, man, it's worse than drugs, bro. They are so tapped right now, and and that they can't. They have to fucking just in like this money draw, man, and it's sad, dude. It's just
it's coming down to a point these days where I think that it's going to get to a boiling point where gamers are just going to kind of not take it anymore. We're starting to see it with franchises from like Ubisoft, right? Like Ubisoft delayed all of their games this year, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not entirely certain if they're going to be using that time wisely. We'll see what happens with their games that they delayed and see if they actually fix some of the shit, because Breakpoint was a disaster.
Yeah, I was actually excited for Breakpoint, and then completely I've not even played it. Like just
Breakpoint was a fucking disaster, and I think that was
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know, honestly, I was excited for it. I didn't know.
You might as well not play it though. You can literally pay for everything. You can literally pay to just not even play the game. You can pay money to complete the game.
Well, and it's the same.
I don't know if that's how it is now, but
it's the same thing with like the Division 2. Like the Division 2, which I actually own, and I actually enjoyed that game until
it was fun for a while.
Right, but it's just like I'm okay with delays. Like, delay your
Yeah.
fucking game and make it good. Like, we've
It's
got
like
Cyberpunk, Final
man.
Fantasy.
Right.
What else got delayed?
Marvel's Avengers.
Marvel's, yeah, the new Marvel Avengers game
Dying
got
Light
delayed.
2.
Dying Light 2
Dying Light
got
2.
delayed. I mean,
Mhm.
all of these games getting delay your fucking game, guys. Delay it and fix it, make it good, and let's go and like cool. Like, let's go the course.
I always say, like, back in the day when you didn't really hear about video games until like a couple months before they were actually releasing. You know, you would
Oh,
if you were
magazines,
lucky,
dude.
you would sometimes yeah. I was about to say, if you were lucky, sometimes you would see like an article in like Gamer magazine, right? That was like, hey, upcoming Doom. This is, you know, we did an interview with the lead designer, and it was like very vague, and they were like, well, you know, we might release it around this time, but it's not guaranteed. We're probably not going to release around that time. It's probably going to be delayed, so don't get your hopes up. It's probably going to be another couple of years, right? Back then we were okay with that because we were like, okay, Doom, you know, the people that make Doom, I always forget their fucking name. id yeah id was always one of those game companies that was like, you could count on them to make a good game. Same with Bethesda.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
but that yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, back in the day we were okay with delays, but it's like these days, if you're not releasing a new game every year, pretty much, or every couple of years, I honestly don't understand the mentality.
It's the curse of the fucking internet, man. It's too much. Like, we have access to too much stuff. Too like if you know, again, like, it's now got to the point where like some shit, like, it literally is just like, oh, that game came out. Like you just said, like, oh, that game came out. It's because you're so inundated with like
too
new
much
game
shit.
release, new game release, new game release. This. It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, slow the roll down. I don't need to hear about everything that's going on in the game cycle or whatever else. Like, and I know that we kind of are talking out of both sides of our mouth, where you like with Star Citizen. Well, you know,
I was about to
come the
bring
fuck
that up.
out.
I was like, on
But-
the other side, on the
But
flip side of
the
that.
problem is that
Right.
because you have given us access into so much info, and then we don't see it. Like, and then it's again, it's a double-edged sword. Just shut the fuck, like, and that's why I think like Pantheon is starting to get in trouble, because nobody knew about Pantheon, and nobody still probably does know for the most part about Pantheon. But if you know about Pantheon, you've been, you know, they're
You've been following it for a long time.
right, but it's not like how it used to be, where, like you said, you'd hear it in a magazine, you may see it. Like, I remember watching E3 being like, oh shit, what's the new stuff going to be coming out? What's the new stuff this year? Fuck, dude, like, we can get all that shit in before E3 ever happens. Like, E3 is not even E3 anymore. Game Awards really, like, I watched the Game Awards for the new releases, but I could have seen that shit.
I remember. I think it was Game Informer magazine.
Yeah.
It was the old one. It was a
Dude,
Game
Power
Informer.
Play, Game
Power Play, that
Informer.
was the other
Oh
one.
my god, man,
I
Nintendo
remember
America. Like, yeah.
I remember literally getting those like every month and being like, "Fuck, what am I gonna get?" You know, and I'd be sitting there reading it. You don't get that these days. It's like literally on a daily basis.
No,
You
now
get,
it's just like, I'm gonna log
what
onto
is-
Steam and see
what
what
is
the
this
fuck is
coming out?
what's the new game on Steam. So, yeah. Well, to end the show, guys, on a note that I think I do want, like, obviously, you know, well, Scruff, let me ask you this. We've talked a lot, but is there anything that you want to necessarily bring up in regards to gaming?
Man, I've been kind of drowned out listening to you guys go on about all
Fucking
this other stuff.
Scruff's all about Kingdom or whatever it's called.
Yeah, my kendama stuff. No, not really. I don't really have anything to go over with gaming wise lately.
Okay. Well,
I've not really looking forward to anything recently.
so I want to talk about Twitch for a second, right? I know that, oh my God, we're streaming on Twitch. Like, you don't talk about Twitch, don't talk about dad. But we actually had something happen recently to one of our members, and I'm gonna go, that's as far as I'm gonna go as far as releasing this person. But they applied for partnership and were denied. And it was denied under the principle that you were hosted too much. What are your guys' feelings on this? Because I have a very strong opinion on this. But I kind of want to, which is a shocker, right? Sin's got a strong feeling about something.
Right. I think it's bullshit, honestly, because anybody can just host anyone, whether it be, you know, 20 viewers, 10 viewers, 6 viewers. And if Twitch can take just any kind of host and be like, that's inflating your viewership that you've had for, you know, weeks on ends, like a constant viewership, but because one person hosted you or a couple people hosted you in between, and that they take that as reason to inflate your viewers, and you know, that's bullshit, honestly.
Enigma, your opinion?
I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of devil's advocate. I can see from both sides of the sword, honestly, as to it. On one end, on when you're looking at it from Twitch's point of view, right? If you're getting hosted a lot, just like the Justified just said, they're not your viewers technically. They're not coming there for you. There's no guarantee you're like we've known for a very long time that like hosts are not really a decent way to build your viewer base unless you're getting huge hosts from people, right?
Yeah.
And the half of the people, not even half, it's like I can't remember what the last percentage was, but it's a really low percentage of host viewers actually stick around to enjoy your content or to consume your content, right? So if you're looking at it from a perspective of Twitch, they're coming from another streamer, right? They're half of them, even more than half of them, are going to stick around in the first place. The portions that do actually stick around, you're not guaranteed to get like money out of them, right? There's no guarantee you're going to get like hosts or anything like that from them. So I'm looking at it from their point of view. I can see kind of from their point of view, but on the flip side, I do think it's a fucking bullshit move to deny somebody partnership just because they got hosted. It's like if you're looking at it from the streamer's point of view, if somebody's willing to host you with 100, 200, 300 viewers, that 300 viewer host obviously felt that your content was worth being on Twitch and worth being seen by different people. And the biggest complaint that I have with Twitch is there's no fucking way to get your content out there other than through other people.
Discoverability is shit.
Yeah, there's no other way to do it. So you're basically telling me that if I'm getting hosted, I'm not worth your time, but there's no way for me to get discovered because your shit fucking site has no way of being discovered. So like what it's like your Twitch is both being stupid and smart at the same time, and I'm more leaning towards the stupid part because I don't agree with it, but I can see from their point of view why they did it.
So for someone that
I've had other people that do it. So I've had other people other people that have been through partnership that have gotten that same reply, and it's like a straight up, like the first time you fucking apply for partnership to them, you're guaranteed that. You're like that's their go-to fucking reply, and it's stupid.
For someone that works in this industry that looks at CCV, right, and which for anybody that doesn't know, CCV is concurrent viewership. That's how many people are watching you at any given time, right? For someone that looks at this on a daily basis and monitors this stuff on a daily basis, I look at a month-long average, right, and I look at what where is their viewership kind of going through it in a month, and I understand the pitfalls that come with it because you can't have something that's slated. For instance, if you don't look at it properly and I go to someone that gets on front page, well, their viewership is going to spike through the roof. And then we've gone in my job, gone to offer something to this person. And then I go back and I relook at it and I'm like, holy shit, they're down to 20 viewers, right? So that it just doesn't make sense. But the problem that I have here is that if you are hosted and you keep those concurrent viewerships there, right? Because the way that it works now is that if you're hosted and people don't basically aren't interacting in your chat, it doesn't count as a viewership, right? If they are not listening to your channel, right? If they have it muted, and people can tab mute, it doesn't count, right? If people are so like lurking, like they discourage lurking at this point, which is also, I think, is kind of bullshit because I keep things on in the background sometimes, and like if you tab out of the Twitch, it doesn't count as a viewer. So there's all of these things that are like, you're fucking me when it comes to trying to build my community in a way, right? And now when you're saying, hey, because I've been hosted by large streamers with thousands of viewers, right, that come in, and for someone that's a small time streamer, it means everything in the world because it's just like, oh my God, I can get this discoverability to people that I may not, have before and get seen and things of that nature. Where now you're literally seeing a backlash. Like I posted yesterday, I was like, holy shit, like I've gotten a growth of organic growth. Like it wasn't from a host, it was from people just discovering my channel. And it's so unheard of. And like, as a content creator, you're like clamoring for that because, you want to get partner. Like the goal of this not the goal, but one of the things there as a milestone is to get that partner and that check mark. You're literally watching someone put in their title, do not host me. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, do you know how discouraging that is for a content creator to see and to understand? And like, I feel for this person. I really feel for him because it's like, that sucks, dude. Like,
Yeah.
especially the way that he's done it and the way that he's gone about it. This was not someone that hoarded himself out to
Yeah.
get these hosts or things like that. Like, he grew the community
Network.
and
He
networked
did
his
a very
ass
good
off.
Network. Yeah.
You know, like, there are people that I know for a fact that that Twitch has fucking partnered and gotten, like, that's partner material right there, because they've gotten some bullshit host from some, you know, whatever else, and they've said, cool, you're allowed to do it just because you're big enough, right? What I will say that at least Twitch took a step in the right direction was they banned someone that had absolute, like, bigotry, hatred, and they found out like in their Discord. And again, I'm not going to name the streamer, but they found this out, like, that this person was, you know, a terrible, shitty person, and their Discord conversations were horrible. But then it's like, cool, we banned them. But you know what they did? They unbanned them and then just were like, oh, we're going to unpartner them. What the fuck, bro? Like, you know what you just did by unpartnering them? You just gave them the ability to go to any other content creation site and do their shit. You should just ban them completely and say you're not allowed on my platform. Like, it's like Twitch takes fucking 2 steps forward and 9 steps back when it comes to some of this shit. Like,
Well, that's always been a complaint that we've had with Twitch, is that they're so ass backwards on enforcing certain rules for certain people, and it's one of those things where it's an ongoing, you know, meme and an ongoing joke that it's like they roll a 20-sided die and wherever it lands is based off of what your punishment is going to be. You know, one person can do like you said, like the bigotry and shit. You know, they can roll a fucking 20-sided die. Oh well, he only got a 4, so he only gets a weak ban. That's partner material right there.
right. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just, and again, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't even talk about Twitch. You know, you can't talk bad about Twitch or whatever else, you know, because
give
of
a
the,
shit.
of the ban. Like, yes, you know what? This channel could possibly get banned for that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, the backlash that comes from those things, like, Twitch's decision process is such a meme at this point on Twitter and everything else. Like, it's a joke. Like, it's literally a joke.
Well,
Like,
we talked about this. We talked about the kind of the exodus that people have been having, where they've been kind of moving off of Twitch.
right.
I can't remember if it was that first. If you guys talked about it on that first one, if it was the last one that we talked about it, but it's like there's a reason, right? There's a reason why Ninja left. It was because of the money, I'm sure. The money had a big fucking deal portion of it, right? But he had to have had a reason to be like considering that, right? He had to have been somewhat unhappy. Same goes with a couple of these other streamers that have been moving to like Facebook gaming, you know, or going to YouTube. You know, there's a reason why they're leaving, and it's because Twitch is making a goddamn fool of themselves recently, and they just cannot. It's almost like the Bethesda complex, right? It's like every week
We're too
there's
big
a
to
new
fail,
story. Yeah, there's a new story of them shooting themselves in the foot over some stupid decision that they made.
Well,
You know,
and what makes it crazy too is that, you know, in fact, there was somebody in my channel, and Scruffy's channel last night that was talking about this. They're like, oh, life at Mixer. I went to Mixer. I went over there, and I would still be at Mixer if it was the fact that their FTL worked. But so again, hear me out. I would still be over at Mixer if FTL worked. Mixer should not be a viable situation or a source right now because their platform is broken. FTL does not function. Their faster than light ability to chat is busted and broken, and it's out there and it's known. And almost like Microsoft just says, we're refusing to fix it, but it's a viable source for people to go, because Twitch is failing so miserably on so many occasions. You're gonna say,
same with like Facebook gaming, dude. Like,
Dude, yeah, they're buying everyone right now.
like I don't understand who's watching like games on Facebook, but there's a reason why they're.
have
over
you
there. It's
tried to
because
go
they
watch a
don't
game on
wanna be
Facebook
over
gaming?
here.
Have you tried to go watch
Yeah,
it?
I've done it.
It's almost impossible.
It's
Like,
terrible, but there's reasons why people are leaving,
right.
and that's why is because fucking
They'd
Twitch
rather
can't.
have somebody's mom watch them on
Yeah,
Facebook than
Twitch-
stay on Twitch.
Well,
Twitch
that
can't pull
and
their
like
shit together,
and
man.
YouTube is the same. Like, you go to YouTube Gaming and you look at YouTube, like YouTube Gaming. I know people that have been in the YouTube Gaming and streamed on YouTube that look at it, they're just like, this is complete dog shit. Like, it's a horrible fucking platform, and YouTube Live is a horrible fucking platform, right? And they're trying to revamp it. Like, Twitch and all they have to do is just like, don't fuck up. Like, be somewhat like, we got, you're gonna fall, but be smart about some of your decisions. And it's just like, they don't give a shit. Like, they don't fucking care. And it's like,
Well, see,
you're
I've-
losing on the battlefront because of your own stupidity. Like,
I've been saying it for a long time too with Twitch, and it's like the only reason why I would ever kind of go to someplace like YouTube is just because you have more discoverability on YouTube, right?
Mm.
You don't have any discoverability on Twitch. There's no way to get your name out there on Twitch
Yeah.
yourself.
Oh, it's
you have to-
hard, yeah.
Unless you go out there.
Front page.
Yeah, and unless you go out there and network, the only way that I know of that you can get discovered on Twitch is through hosts and raids,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Right.
You know,
I've really never even gone on the Discover page, to be honest, and I
Yeah.
don't think most people do.
No, they don't. Well, and here's the thing that really does irritate me. And again, because I work in this industry, I have a little bit more insight than I think most. But as someone that works in this industry and also is a content creator themselves, I am so sick and fucking tired of everything being like, you just have to work. Like, you just need to put your work into it. And that luck isn't a part of it. You're fucking crazy. I don't give a fuck
Yeah.
how big, like, and I don't give how big you are or whatever else. I put more effort and more energy into this shit than 90% of the fucking people that are partnered out there. And I can tell you right now, like, it is about luck. It's a roll of the dice to be like, cool, someone happened to click on my channel, because then they're like, oh, we'll play games that, you know, some people are gonna be like, play whatever games you want to play, then have fun. Well, if I'm streaming to have fun, yes, and I'm playing games to have fun, but it's also, do you know how disheartening it is to look over and see your viewership at fucking zero, and people are like, oh, we'll be more entertaining. Okay, well, that's the most shittiest info, like, thing that you can possibly give. Then it's like, oh, we'll play games that there's not very many people in the hopper. Well, hold on one second. If there's not many people
Then
in the hopper, how the
there's no
fuck am I
fun
going
in
to get
that
seen?
sometimes.
Right? Like, how am I going to get fucking seen? Like,
Yeah.
and then if I do play the popular games, I'm pushed so far fucking down that it's ridiculous. Like, and Twitch tried to do this. Like, they were like, okay, cool, we're going to make the carousel be, not all of our partner people, and it's going to be like newer streamers or whatever else. That stopped fucking 2 months into it. And then they were like, oh, well, we're going to alter up the way that when you go and click on a game into where it's not just going to be the top people, it's going to be, randomized to where you're at in the queue, because people are like, oh, well, you're not at the top of, like, legitimately, people in Twitch viewers will scroll maybe twice. At most, maybe twice. Very few, unless you just are like us that like to actually watch new and upcoming streamers, aren't going to scroll past the fucking first 6 pages. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, for Christ's sake, like, big streamers are big streamers. People have their audience. And I think Twitch has forgotten where they came from. Twitch started as Justin.tv, which was a fucking low end site where it was free for all. Now it's just, if you don't somehow make it big, like, it doesn't matter. And even, I would say, even if you get your partner check, that doesn't mean dick anymore. Like, before, if you got your check, like, you got to walk around kind of with your held high. Now it's just kind of like, I don't know, I met a requirement, but it still doesn't mean that, it still doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I don't know, man. Twitch, get your shit together. Like,
Like, that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't. Unless they start getting some competition, I don't think it'll ever really. They don't have any incentive to do so. Like, there's no reason for them to fix shit.
Yeah.
Because they already know that, what are you gonna do? You gonna go to Mixer? Oh,
yeah.
big deal there.
Right. They don't see Mixer or Facebook Gaming as any sort of competition, even though they're buying out some streamers. It's nothing to them.
But even with those streamers, did like buying Ninja actually do anything for them?
No, I think it did. I think
it gave them a very minimal boost. But I don't think it did what they felt that. I definitely don't think it did what I think the last number was 20 million was what he got, like 20 to 30 million. I definitely don't think that they got 20 to 30 million dollars worth of.
I think they got out of it what they were looking to necessarily get out of it, which was the fact that they are going to pull in
headlines.
Right. But they pulled in user bases, right? People went over there for clout reasons. Like,
I think they got headlines, and they got the kind of bragging rights that they stole a prominent streamer, one of the top streamers from Twitch.
Right.
That and Shroud there.
I mean, think about how many people in your timeline on Twitch or on Twitter were saying, should I go to Mixer? Is Mixer a viability, right? Like, and I can say, like, I was one of them that moved over to Mixer. I didn't go to Mixer because of fucking clout. I went over there because I wanted to see if it was possible to build. Like, I pretty much got fed up with the fact that I could not build a community over here. Like, I was having problems building communities over here. Like, getting discovered over here was rough. And I looked at Mixer and said, there's a lack of crisp, clean, good, like, well-produced content over there. Let me go over there and take my stream and my quality over to there to see if I can build something.
Yeah, it's very amateur over there.
But see, the biggest problem over there as well, again, is that there's no discoverability. There's very little discoverability.
And it's a lack, because on that side, it's a lack of just viewers. Like, you don't have the viewership there, So
they've got they've got better discoverability options.
They have better options over there for sure, but it's still nothing compared
the
to
viewer base has nothing to compare to Twitch.
Right.
Well, not just the viewer base, but again, the discoverability. you can't trump YouTube's algorithm. Like they do a very good job with actually pushing new and relevant content that you're looking for. Granted, once you go down like 6 or 7 videos of that fucking rabbit hole, you start getting into some weird shit that you're
Right.
like, why the fuck did the algorithm fucking recommend this to me?
You end up
But
getting
at
to,
least the
like,
algorithm is recommending
building
new
a
shit,
dirt
right?
house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I mean, anyway, yeah. Let's just hope, I guess. Maybe, you know.
It's
But-
one of those things where it's like the top dogs right now are kind of, because YouTube, even YouTube's kind of screwing themselves over recently with the recent changes that they've done to like their content and the recent changes that they've done to their what they perceive as acceptable content. I think is a little less acceptable when it comes to freedom of speech, which is what they were originally built off of. You mentioned it before with Twitch, right? Twitch came from Justin.tv, which was kind of a free for all.
Right.
Look at them now, right? They're a far fucking throw from what they were on Justin TV.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem that we're seeing with both Twitch and YouTube these days, is that they've kind of forgotten where they came from.
Well, I
They
mean,
kind of forgot that they built themselves off of their content creators.
the
right?
creator of Justin.tv, like one of the founding members of Twitch, just left and went to Facebook Gaming.
Yeah.
Do I think that means anything? No. Like, Facebook is so far detached as well. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't, like, we're not even going to go there. Like,
Yeah.
they're about to get shut down by the federal government anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so it's an interesting time in the Twitch world. But I mean, we still all create content because we love it, you know, and we love to do this, and we have a great time, and that's why the Pre-Patch Podcast is awesome, because we don't give a shit. We sit here and talk truth, regardless whether you like it or not, or disagree with us or not, and we are going to continue to do that pretty much on a bi-weekly basis. So for episode number 3. I'm going to call it a wraps. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, but I think that that's probably a good spot to end it on.
I just
good luck. Be careful with the coronavirus.
yeah, man. I just want to really quickly shout out to Bill. I don't want to go into too many details, but he lost a pet of his, so just give him as much love and good vibes as he can. You know, he's gonna need it. I know how that feels. I recently lost 2 of my own pets, so that's definitely not a pain that you want to go through. But
Yeah,
we love you, Bill.
Yeah,
Don't worry
much
about
love.
the podcast. Figure your stuff out, man. We'll get with you.
Yep. Make sure you guys send him some love on his Twitter or anything like that. It's at Billy _ the
Billy
_
under the squid. Yep.
Send him some love. But for myself, Scruffy, and Enigma, thank you guys for tuning in to the episode 3 of the Pre-Patch Podcast. It was an amazing show, and we couldn't have done it without you guys. And we hope that you enjoy all of the content that you received today. You will be able to catch this again on our VODs, as well as on our YouTube channel. Mr. Scruffy does an amazing job getting that content out there as fast as you can. And we hope to see you guys on the next show, and we will see you later. Bye, guys.